Okay, so this next panel is supporting emerging musicians and grassroots artists in today's evolving music industry. With our lovely host, Mark Pickering, who doesn't need another introduction, unless you guys want one, probably he does. And Ross McKay, who is a student here at Anglia Ruskin, who studies audio music technology. He's a DJ active in and outside of Cambridge, working at famous places like with famous events like Shy FX and other notable people that he tells me all the time, but I forget about them because. Okay, then also Dan Wilde. He's a folk artist who has played in both the UK and around the world. And for the past 9 years, with his amazing repertoire, he has supported musicians like Rick Astley, Ethan Johns, Cara Dillon, Kareem Pollard, Sam Carter, John Smith, and Martin Taylor, to name a few. Very stacked, well done. Then we also have Simon Garrod, who's a key figure in the UK technical metal scene. Simon is also the mastermind behind the UK Tech Fest, one of the largest festivals dedicated to technical and progressive metal. And then finally, I'll stand over here and not block you, sorry. Sorry guys, technical difficulties. Genuine technical difficulties.
Not even on there.
Tell you what, would you like to introduce yourself? Because it's taken me so long.
We can.
Just ignore me, guys. Don't worry about it.
Hi, I'm Rebecca. I am currently working for Sound Roots, which is an export conference based up in Manchester, and we work predominantly with traditional and folk artists.
Okay, very cool. Okay, thank you, guys.
Thank you, Kyle. Kyle lost his notes. That does happen sometimes, and it's quite nerve-wracking to get up in front of people, so we forgive him for that. Dan also got rickrolled there, in a way. Yeah. That's quite good. Yeah. Ross, I just want to check something. I've always wanted this, because are you McKay or Mackay?
Mackay.
Good man. That's how it's said. Right. So this is a really exciting panel for me. Really great contributors, including our very own student, Ross McKay, everyone. And let's get the conversation going. So earlier on in my first talk, or in my introduction, I touched on how much the music industry has changed, particularly since an old guy like me was making his way through the traditional methods of raising. There was, internet wasn't really a big thing, although we were big on MySpace back then, which you're not going to know what that is. I had more than one friend. It wasn't just Tom, but that's for anyone who remembers that. So it's a very different landscape. It's not about big advances. It might be at a certain level, but it's about what is it about. That's kind of what we're all about. And we're looking at supporting emerging artists through that process. So my first question is the landscape of the music industry confusing for new artists? And we'll just go down the line, or you can chuck in if you like. Should we go, Rebecca?
Yes and no. I think if you, I think there's two sides of it. One is that what you see on TV is not what you get in real life. So the X Factor and Britain's Got Talent are unrealistic, and I wouldn't use those as a good example. But I think social media, on the flip side of that, does have some really great examples of how you can use social media and things like that for a real positive turn in your career.
Yeah.
I'd say, I've worked with some really big artists, and a lot of them don't have a clue what they're doing either. And there's a case of fake it till you make it. And I feel that number one is just have your own self-confidence in what you're doing, and you will navigate your own way through no matter what, and just learn to be good at doing that rather than trying to aspire to be a certain professionalism or whatever. Just learn and be confident in yourself and what you're doing, and you will find your way.
Yeah, so I think in a lot of ways it is kind of maybe more confusing for older artists, actually.
So people that are used to sort of social media, TikTok and all this kind of stuff, maybe it's, I don't know, in some ways easier, in some sense. When I was kind of getting started, like Mark, it was Mark's MySpace, and it was, you know, packaging up CDs and sending them to people. And now you've just got like the internet, and it's like, okay, so many things you can do. So it's about maybe picking a strategy and just going with that.
Yeah, I definitely think like we're seeing like a big shift in more like recent years from like the traditional method of sending your demos to labels and trying to pick up recognition through that. And it's kind of being more simplified, I'd say, by you've seen a lot of independent artists break through by utilising social media strategies and whatnot to grow their own brand and grow their image without the backing of the major labels as well. So I do think it is kind of being a bit more simplified recently.
Do you think so? That's interesting that you say that, and Dan and I are going, well, it's more confusing than it's ever been, because it's a young perspective, right? But what about, isn't there a lot of noise though? Because now the access is easier, right? So as an artist, I've had the joys of watching something go on Spotify and seeing that it still has less than 1,000 plays, and I'm like, I'm sure I promoted this. I'm sure I've had engagement on my socials. I'm sure. So how do we get through the noise? And is doing things in the non-virtual world just as important?
Definitely. I think what really sets aside the artists who are breaking through using the social media at the minute is having their niche. I think making yourself stand out compared to everyone else, because it is a huge pot with a lot of people in, and finding your niche
Within that is what really allows you to break through, which can definitely be tough and it will take a lot of discovery. But once you find that niche to push yourself forward, I think that's definitely a way to utilise it.
Anyone else got some thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think from my perspective, like performing is really important. Like being on social media and having that presence is great, and you can get some really good breakthroughs there. But unless you are perfecting your craft and being in front of an audience and knowing how that works, then those two things need to go hand in hand. Like, don't forget about the live stuff just for the social media. And one of the things that I would look at for an artist is how they perform in front of people and how they're able to kind of negotiate that as well as just their craft. So I think those two things kind of need to go hand in hand.
What about within your scene, Simon? Is it a similar perspective?
I think you need to stand out in multiple ways, like be it making a really creative music video or finding something that in a live perspective makes you different to everyone else on the bill. Something that my band does is I've basically learned to do my own program lighting rig. So whatever gig we play, we have a different lighting setup to what every other band on the bill is doing. And it doesn't matter what festival setup it is that's going, we look different to everyone else on the bill. And I feel that that's a key thing for us to stand out, is having a really aggressive light show. That's kind of what we do.
Yeah, I think the live thing that you mentioned, I think that's maybe more important in certain genres more than others. So like in the folk world, you have to be able to play live, whereas maybe if you're making like electronic music or something, you can be making it on a laptop, and as long as it sounds good, then it can do well. So
absolutely, it's interesting you're talking about taking your own light show, because I think an interesting running theme is it just enough to be an artist now? Do we need those other technical skills? Is it helpful? I mean, obviously it could be, but is that a norm now? Is it a normal situation to be like?
Something I learned at music business is I obviously am a metal guitarist, so I was taught if you want to be a metal guitarist, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Like, become a promoter, be a lighting guy, be a sound guy, be a producer. Like, find loads of different avenues to meet and network with different people, and it all kind of feeds into what you're trying to build. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Cool, so looking at that, so socials, we've mentioned that briefly. Everybody does it. Sometimes we wonder why we do it. My personal experience is that I don't think social engagement actually necessarily means you're going to get physical engagement. Is that something that you all find to be true, or what's your experiences on that? I'm going to go straight to Ross on this, because, yeah.
I've personally found it definitely translates. I think the way I would personally utilise my socials is to create like a personable connection with people who listen to your music. So it gives them a little bit of yourself. So there's less of a disconnect between the artist and the craft that you're putting into it. And you know, you're posting the clips from your show, and you're putting a face to what the people are listening to. So I think it definitely translates into people physically coming to see you.
There's a lot of bands that just don't want to do social media these days, and they very much like, I just want to play music. But understand that if you just want to play music, that's kind of all you will do. And like, you have to learn to master that part of it if you really want to. Like, social media is the key to the world. Like, I've got friends in every country, every city around the UK. I've got somewhere I can stay, and it's all just down to Facebook and Instagram and TikTok. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it very much, it does come back to the age thing as well, and knowing the age of your audience and where they're likely to be. I mean, I think, again, coming from the folk world, it's a much different area in terms of the engagement. You know, Facebook, the hell that is Facebook is still where most of those people hang out, and it's horrible, but also really, you know, you need that. So I think it's getting to know your audience, getting to know where they'll be.
Should we bother with threads or not? Bother with threads? No. Okay, I partially agree on that. So it's interesting because socials are different platforms for different things, right? So you've got which one do you use for comms? Which one do you use for highlighting your talents? Which one do you use for, I'm going to use a big word, parasocial relationship? That means that the audience believes that they have some sort of connection to you. You engaged with them, that they know you in some way.
I'd say like TikTok's really good for discovery, but then Instagram and Facebook are probably the best for selling tickets. So, you know, it depends if you're a live band or just an internet project. But I think all of them have a value, and I think that a lot of bands do like cross-promotion stuff where they just sort of spam on one and just cross-promote it to others, and then they see one social network not doing that well. I feel like you need to tailor each, you know, platform you do with the content you put out. Do you know what I mean? It needs to be specific for Facebook rather than Instagram or TikTok. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's about finding something that suits you as well and suits your style of music. So I work with a lot of singer-songwriters in the studio who are, particularly with male singer-songwriters, I find that their whole vibe is that they've got a bit of mystery about them. And so it's really hard for them to like do a TikTok video and kind of show the world who they are, because that sort of doesn't really fit in with their style of music. So that's quite difficult. Whereas if you're doing pop, then maybe it's easier to be like, this is who I am and I'm going to show the world, sort of thing.
That's a really good point, and I can think of a few examples of that as well. Okay, so let's look at a bit of a hypothetical scenario, right? Now, some of the best music that's ever been made is music no one's ever heard, right? And that's because somebody didn't quite get the right break or promote themselves in the right way. Like we said, there's a lot of noise out there. Even, I think it was you, Simon, who said, even the most experienced artists and successful aren't quite sure how they're doing it. I mean, a friend of mine just knocked Lady Gaga off the album charts, and he doesn't know how.
Yeah, so, I mean, probably one of my biggest successes is I'm one of the few people outside of Live Nation to have ever booked Sleep Token. And, like, you know, knowing some of them from previous to them being in the band, like, you wouldn't expect them to be who they are now. But yeah, I mean, they're incredible, obviously, and you know they're charting with, you know, Lady Gaga and everything else. As a metal band, that's insane. Like,
yeah, absolutely. So look, let's say, not me, but let's say there's a hypothetical person who's really talented. They're maybe about 18, 19 years old, maybe 20. They might have been sort of, the lockdown period might not have helped their growth as an artist or given them opportunities to do so. But they're really, really good and they want to get somewhere, right? This is a big subject, but like square one to at least getting some following. And let's make the assumption that they are very talented. Where do we start?
I think at the base of it, if you've got tracks there ready to go,
start creating content immediately. There is no point in being slow, thinking about it too much. Just start getting yourself out there as quick as possible, without a doubt.
yeah, I think if you date yourself and you don't post because you're worried about, you know, doing something that looks cringy or whatever, then that's just a post that no one's going to see. Whereas if you put it out there and it doesn't bang or do well, then you can learn from that and just do better next time and just keep going with it. I think consistency is the main thing, and just staying in front of people's eyes and just trying to work on what's working, and just just lean into what works for you and your brand. Do you know what I mean?
I think maybe it depends on what your sort of next step is. So if you're thinking that if you're like a live performer, you want to go out and get more gigs, then maybe you need something that proves that you're a good live performer. So like some video content of you playing live. And I think that's also sort of depending on the genre. If you're an acoustic artist, then you need to be able to play live. If you're like making electronic music, maybe it's not as important. So then that will change the kind of content that you make, I think, and what you should make first as well.
That's cool. So we're sort of coming back to content again. So there was, certainly during the kind of pandemic time, there was a kind of trend for big stunts. Like people were DJing on the top of satellite dishes and standing over like ravines and big bridges with a drone. You know, do these things matter? Do you think to get attention, we artists should be kind of doing something a little out of the ordinary?
Yeah, I mean, there's so again, kind of sticking with the folk note. You know, it's where I'm comfortable with. But there's an amazing Scottish band as part of a funded thing during lockdown. They did Postcards from Scotland, and it was a film crew sent out to different bands who were in different areas of Scotland. I've got mid-40s brain, so the name of the band will take me a minute to come back to. But
too, don't worry.
okay, cool. But the that particular video went viral on YouTube. You know, it was the one, and it was on the Highlands in Scotland, playing their music with all the drones and everything. And it is still one of the best videos that I've seen. So I think things like, like the magic happens, but yes, absolutely, they are the things that kind of really, they really resonate with people.
So talking about drones in Scotland, our first music video was at the Secret Pyramid on top of a mountain in Scotland, and we spent 8 days up there. And I'd say a lot of managers would probably say that was a waste of time and money, but it was about creating an image that's bigger than us. Like anyone that knows us, like Patrick and that, will know that we're just a bunch of metalheads from Cambridge. But when you see an image of us, you know, on a mountain with drones flying about, the image is way bigger than who we actually are. And I think creating the boots that you want to fill is kind of the mentality you want to have.
Grant McPhee?
I think Nightworks.
Right. Yeah.
And so they're like electronic, but with bagpipes.
Oh, I've heard of that. I've
yes,
seen that. Yes,
because that goes hand in hand, obviously.
Yeah.
But when you said drones, drones.
I thought you meant flying about filming. Do you know what I mean?
Both.
If you start a bagpipe tune, I've done this on a record player. Every tune starts the same. Anyway, just this Scottish joke. But I actually filmed something.
Such a geeky joke.
Yeah, I shot a film for an artist, Constant Follower, who is the one who knocked Lady Gaga off number 2, as it was. And he's someone I've known since I was 3 years old as well, so he's my best friend. But we went and did it on the top of the Wallace Monument in Stirling, and we had a drone, and it was freezing, unbelievably freezing, but it was incredible what we got out of it. It was absolutely fantastic. Right, okay, so I'm going to start to wrap this up a little bit. So starting to get to the close. I'm going to open for some questions too. But what about community? Okay, how important is community?
I mean, I really love getting involved with the community of the metal scene. I love finding bands that have just started. I like seeing the passion in people that just start out. I feel it's a real big thing, and like I'm not a fan of like VIP areas or networking events because I find it quite sociopathic. But like the people that are really passionate and want to do it because they want to help rather than, you know, they're doing it for some ulterior motive, I feel they're the people I connect with the most. And like I feel just vibes and music and love is the main guiding force with what I do.
Cool.
I think as well, like just starting out, like in terms of just starting out, community is a big thing. Like for me, and like the DJ in Wilde and whatnot, just getting yourself out to your local promoters, your grassroots music venues who are putting on these DJ shows and stuff, and just speaking with people is a really good way to get yourself opportunity at the start when you're just getting going.
Yeah, also spending time with other people like your peers doing what you're trying to do. So whether that's like an open mic scene or, you know, whatever it is, just like spending time with people, trying to do the same thing as you, talking about it, sharing your music with each other, giving each other feedback, that kind of thing, really useful.
Yeah, you never know who's going to have a conversation with who. So the more that you are with people doing the same thing or in those areas, your name is getting into those conversations. You know, you never know when somebody goes, oh, we need a support for this, or we need something for that. And if you're the person that they've just spoken to, you will be top of the list. And that, unfortunately, is also how it goes. But that, you know, to your point about the networking, it's annoying and it's frustrating, but if you're the last person that somebody spoke to, you will be the one that they remember first.
That's true. And I want to throw something in there for artists as well. I remember being a young musician. I don't think this is any different now because I'm still in bands now, you know, at my ripe old age. But when you turn up at a venue and you walk into a room and there's 3 other bands there, the first thing we kind of do is go, I don't think they like us very much. They and the other band's thinking the same thing. So there's this standoff moment where you're kind of going, oh, and then everyone gets this idea that they're outsiders and us against them, and then it kind of creates divides, you know. And the best piece of advice I got starting out was from Guy Garvey from Elbow, and he said to me, next time you walk into a room, just remember that the people standing in the corner on the other side looking cool are thinking the exact same thing you are. And the best thing you can do is open up, embrace them, because that's your network, you know. You can share audiences and build yours on the back of theirs and them on the back of yours. And next thing you know, you might find a band in another town who are doing the same thing as you, and you can swap gigs, and they can get your audience, you can get theirs, and you're growing your mailing list, and you're doing all that. So that was the best piece of advice I ever got, and it certainly helped, and that helped me set up my own tour network at the time. So I think that's probably still relevant, even though it was 20 years ago. Right, cool. Thank you very much. I think there's some really wonderful insights there. I'm going to open up to the room to see if anyone has any questions they'd like to throw at the panel. We have a microphone over here. We have...
We've spoken a lot about kind of self-promotion and social media, but what about the industry's role in this? Like, how important is it for the industry to support emerging artists, and what does that look like? So from Sound Roots perspective, the thing that we are doing is supporting those artists who are on their next step. Part of the thing that we do is the artist mentoring pathway. We take 4 artists every year who we then give a mentor to. We give performance opportunities to at festivals and other showcasing events, and help them kind of formulate what is their next step. So things like that are really important about how the industry supports that, and how you know all the way from the grassroots venues, events, things like that, supporting artists all the way through their careers. And artists that have come through the artist mentoring pathway, like Catherine Priddy, who is now kind of, doing incredibly well off the back of that. So it works, and, so things like that are really important.
Can we get a little plug from you and a bit of an info out to the audience that were out there on the video? So where can they find Sound Roots?
So the website is soundroots.uk. Yeah. I really hope that is. I'm really new at my job. And one of the things that we've also got is Sound Roots Connect, which is an industry platform which helps you with that community, provides you with information. And whether folk doesn't have to be your genre of music, but it will have interesting and informative information there for you in terms of, we've got a library of videos that people have done.
that kind of talk about how you know, get yourself export ready or get yourself to that next point in your career. So how do you kind of perform in front of people? How do you put yourself forward? What are those kind of, what do you need to be an export ready artist?
Right. Fantastic. That's really, really helpful. I'm glad that question was asked. It was on my list and I just missed it. Okay, anyone else want to add into that?
I'd say a lot of managers, labels and booking agents aren't going to sit and babysit you on how to be professional or how to turn up on time or how to get your stuff together. So, and the other thing is, like, 99% of bands don't get a label, an agent or a manager. So spending 99% of your time worrying about them picking you up is a waste of your time. Like, become independent, learn your business, learn your live show, learn your merch show, learn your socials, learn your, you know, being your own label, getting your streaming revenues and stuff. Understand the business of all of those, and then you've got something to bring to the table eventually. Like, yeah, no one's going to pick you up if you haven't sort of mastered it yourself.
I really don't want to go down the rabbit hole of bad mouthing Live Nation and stuff,
Okay.
but that's a whole other thing. But staying independent and support and knowing how to support yourself, although they have a monopoly over a lot of the industry, they are. You know, an emerging artist is nothing to them. You are so much stronger if you have that community around you on your own.
Yeah, and you've kind of, if you want the music industry to get involved with your music, you need to make somebody want to help you, right? So something like Sound Roots, it's great that your organisation exists, but you're only going to help artists if you think, well, they're talented and they're, you know, doing everything right. They're trying to make things happen for themselves, and then you're interested to work with them, as opposed to you're not just going to like think, oh, well, they're good. They've got to have more than just being good, right?
Yeah, absolutely. There's the ear catching or the eye catching, whatever that element is to it. You know, if you're listening to hundreds of applicants, it is going to be a very kind of quick hit that you get to listen to. So making that a real bang is what you need.
Cool. And there are other resources out there. I mean, just look, you know, there's Help Musicians UK. Occasionally, the Arts Council do give artists money. At the moment, they're looking at venues, I think, mostly, but just keep your eye on that stuff, I'd say. We've built in a bit of, we can go slightly over, just so before you worry, Kyle, we're okay. Any other questions coming in from the audience?
So earlier, Simon mentioned the music videos and the importance of that. I was wondering if you could go a bit deeper into that and whether it's like how important it is for music artists to collaborate with other mediums in order to expand their reach.
I think it's still quite relevant to have a music video. I think that sort of thing come around from like the MTV era, which is kind of past now. But having a long form video on your YouTube that people can get into, you can then chop that up into 15 different reels and put it across all your different platforms and stuff. So it's still relevant. Like, you're creating visually attractive content, and like, you know, a lot of bands are releasing 15-track albums still, and no one's got the time to just listen to a brand new band and just delve into 15 songs. That you're going to be found from a 15-second clip, and like, you know, trying to get as many of them as possible that hit. You know, you miss everything you don't, you know, shoot. Do you know what I mean? You've got to keep trying, and if you can chop a video up into 15, 20 reels, you've got, you know, multiple more attempts of one of them getting more successful.
Yeah, and I'll talk to the music video bit as well, because I am a music video director and I have been for 18 years. And I've been doing it from back when we had big budgets to where we are now, and the budgets just aren't there. However, for an emerging artist, it's still your calling card. It's like a business card. It's the first place people can see what you look like, see what you sound like, see what your vibe is. So it's still really important. And one bit of advice I'd give is shooting nice-looking videos and hiring someone like me is expensive, right? Never spend more on your video than you are on your recording. Like, that's for later down the line. Let your label pay for that when you've got a budget. But just do something that represents you well enough. And you know, because I wouldn't take your money if you came to me and wanted to shoot like a car chase and all these different things. I'd just be like, look, just do a live performance or whatever it is, you know, and just represent who you are with your sound properly.
Yeah, I work with a few artists who just subscribe to something like Canva, and they use stock footage. Stock footage looks really good, and you can make a really decent music video just using stock footage. You might not be able to tell a narrative, but if you're creative with it, you can do that for really cheap. I mean, I think a Canva subscription's like £13 a month or something, and you could subscribe for 1 month, spend a few hours, and edit some videos together and have a video.
All right, we're going to take one more question if anyone's got one. Yeah, you there? Run the mic down here, please. There's a person in black just over there, behind the man in the stripies.
I'm trying to like emerge as an artist, and I was just wondering how I would go about like asking around for like gigs and stuff, like playing, I don't know, like pubs and things. I don't know how easy it is to do that, and I don't know, like I've literally done my first performance here last week. I just did busking, and it was really great, and now I'm just like really keen to like do more.
So there's a band called The Glitchers who just announced themselves as touring with Bring Me the Horizon, and they literally just follow them and busk outside their venues. So you can start like that and go on tour with any band you want. But I would say get in your local venue just as a punter and just be there to genuinely meet the community. And I think if you can, build up to doing your own hometown show and you can get that fairly successful, then it's scalable across the rest of the country. But yeah, getting out and just travelling around, going to gigs around the place, trying to meet the promoters, trying to meet the local bands and stuff. If you want to be a promoter, you can bring all the bands from around the country to your hometown, and then hopefully go to their hometown in the future as well. So,
I'd say get out to lots of open mics, and then you'll meet other artists who are also gigging around in the area. I used to run an open mic, and what I'd find is that we'd have there'd be a group of people that would always be there every week, and then that would change every now and then because those people started gigging, so they didn't go to the open mic as much, So I think that's pretty important. Try and meet other people, and then they'll help you out.
Thank you, Dan. Any final thoughts on that, Ross?
No, I think they've just covered everything I was going to say anyway.
So what I would say to you as well, there's a panel later on called Where Have All the Venues Gone? So we've got actually Simon Baker from Green Mind, who's the longest running, most successful local promoter. I've worked with him for years. Have a chat with him today. I'll introduce you if you like, but it's about chatting to people, there are opportunities out there. It's just, you just come and get to know some people, okay? Right, well, I'm going to wrap it up there, so thanks. That was a wonderful conversation, and I could have gone on much longer. So thank you very much to the panel.